ನನ್ನ ಚಾನೆಲ್‌ಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ನಾನು ನೇಹಾ ಸುಲ್ತಾನ ನಾರಾಯಣಪೇಟ್. ಇವತ್ತು ನಾನು ಪಾರ್ಟ್ 4 ವಿಡಿಯೋ ತಂದುಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಸೆಟ್ ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ನವೆಂಬರ್ 20, 24ರ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ಇವೆ. ಸೊ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸಿಂಗ್ ದೋಸ್ ವಿತ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್‌ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್. ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಸುವ ಮುನ್ನ ನೀವು ಹೊಸಬರಾಗಿದ್ದರೆ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನನ್ನ ಚಾನೆಲ್‌ಗೆ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಷನ್ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ ಸಂಬಂಧಿತ ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನು ತಯಾರಿಸಲು ಮತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ ತಯಾರಿಯನ್ನು ಉತ್ತಮಗೊಳಿಸಲು ಪ್ರೇರೇಪಿಸುತ್ತದೆ. ವಿಡಿಯೋವನ್ನು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಸೋಣ. So the first, not first, question number 47 is which two of the following are legitimate frameworks for setting out a literature review? So there are four questions here, not questions. So there are four options here, in which I have ticked the third one as a correct answer. Let's see its explanation. The correct answer is A, C. And the explanation is constructing intertextual coherence and problematizing the situation are legitimate frameworks for setting out a literature review. Intertextual coherence refers to establishing connections between different texts and integrating them into a coherent narrative. And the second one is problematizing the situation involves identifying gaps or unresolved issues in existing literature and framing the research question in a relation to these problems. Question number 48. What is the salami slicing in research ethics? And the correct option that I have ticked here is the first one. Only first and third are correct. Explanation. Salami slicing in research ethics refers to the unethical practice of dividing the results of a single study or experiment into multiple smaller publications, often to artificially increase the number of publications by reporting partial results. So this leads to those two options, that first and third. That publishing the results of a single experiment in more than one journal, and the third one is reporting the results of a single study in two or more manuscripts. Question number 49. Which of the following is not an advantage of using closed questions in a survey? So there are four options, in which I have ticked third one as the correct answer, which is they prevent respondents from giving spontaneous, unexpected answer. So closed questions like limit the responses to predefined options, which can restrict the richness of data and may prevent respondents from offering unique or unexpected insights. Finally, the question number 50. It is about match list first with list second, and select the correct answer from the quotes given below. So here is the list one, in which there are four options are there. In the first one is diagnostic research and action research, and phenomenological research, and the last one is experimental research. And list two is their answer in a not chronological way, and the first one is manipulation of variables, descriptive study to find out the gap, and the last one is oriented towards solving a classroom issue. Let's see its correct match. Diagnostic research to find out the gap, action research oriented towards solving a classroom issue, phenomenological research is a descriptive study, experimental research is manipulation of variables. Question number 51. Who among the following is the most gifted writer of the interlude? And there are four options are here, in which the correct answer is Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson is considered the most gifted writer of the interlude among the options provided, because the interlude was a short comedic play performed between the acts of a longer drama, and Johnson contributed significantly to this genre, especially with his development of a satirical comedy and his works like Every Man in His Humor. Which of the following is chronologically arranged? So the correct answer is with explanation. The chronological arrangement of the works is as follows. Dr. Faustus is the first one because it was published in 1604 by Christopher Marlowe. While selecting the correct answer, you must know about the publication dates. On that thing, you can easily understand the chronological arrangement of works. So remembering the publication dates are essential in this kind of questions. And the second one is 1606. Sorry, Macbeth. Second one is Macbeth, which was published in 1606 by William Shakespeare. And the third one is An Enemy of the People, which was published in 1882 by Henrik Ibsen. And the fourth one, She Stoops to Conquer, which was published in 1773 by Oliver Goldsmith. Question number 53. The new type of tragedy that became prominent after the Restoration and of which Dryden was one of the most skillful exponent is, the correct one is the heroic play. The new type of tragedy that became prominent after the Restoration and of which Dryden was one of the most skillful exponents is the heroic play, because heroic plays were characterized by grand themes, elevated language, and heroic characters, often set in classical or mythological context. Dryden's All for Love is a notable example of this genre. Question number 54. Shaw's fundamental aim in his drama was to entertain his audience, to preach his audience, to bettering of the lot of humanity, or the fourth one, to educate by entertaining. So the correct answer is to educate by entertaining. Why? Because Shaw's fundamental aim in his drama was to educate by entertaining, because he believed in using his plays to address social issues and provoke thought, while still engaging and entertaining his audience. So his works often combined humor and criticism to challenge societal norms. And here once again we have matched the following kind of question here, list with list 1 and 2, in which we have to match them in correct order. So here is The Way of the World, The Murder in Cathedral, The Caucasian Chalk Circle, Waiting for Godot. And on the other hand, list second contains epic theater, absurd drama, comedy of manners, poetic drama. And the correct list match of list is, so here is a correct match for list first and list second. The Way of the World is a comedy of manners. The Murder in the Cathedral is a poetic drama. The Caucasian Chalk Circle is epic theater, and Waiting for Godot is a absurd drama. Question number 56. The outstanding trait of Asif Kurimbo's play is magical realism, surrealism, socialism, social realism, or psychological insight. So the correct answer is social realism. Why? Because the outstanding trait of Asif Kurimbo's play is social realism. Is his works often focus on the socio-political issues of contemporary India, highlighting the struggles of individuals against societal pressures and injustices. Question number 57. Uh, which play of Samuel Beckett is a static representation without a structure or development, using only meandering, seemingly incoherent dialogue to suggest despair of a society and mankind? So, जब मैंने इसकी फर्स्ट आंसर की का वीडियो पब्लिश किया था यूट्यूब पर, तो बहुत सारे लोग क्वेश्चन नंबर 57 को लेकर कमेंट कर रहे थे कि मैंने इसका आंसर रॉन्ग बताया है। तो इसका भी हम एक्सप्लेन करेंगे क्यों बोले तो एंड गेम ही इसका सही आंसर है, ना कि वेटिंग फॉर गोडोट। लेट्स सी इट्स एक्सप्लेनेशन। The play by Samuel Beckett, that is a static representation without structure of development, using minimalistic and incoherent dialogue to suggest a despair of society and mankind, is Endgame. Why? Because Beckett's Endgame presents a bleak, repetitive situation where characters are stuck in a cycle of despair, reflecting the absurdity of futility of existence. And on the other hand, Waiting for Godot is indeed similar in style to Endgame in terms of its existential themes and use of seemingly incoherent dialogue, but it differs in its structure and intent. While Waiting for Godot uses repetition and pauses to express absurdity of human existence and the futility of waiting for meaning or salvation, it still has a structure. Uh, uh, yeah, it still has a structure that involves two characters, that is Vladimir and Strajan, engaging in a form of dialogue that while often circular or nonsensical, still drives forward a basic narrative. Waiting for someone, Godot, who is a god in that drama, who never arrives. On the other hand, Endgame is even more static and stripped down. It has fewer characters and less action, and its dialogue is more fragmented and lacking in development, with characters existing in a more clearly defined stagnant environment. The play's emphasis is on the total despair and nihilism of the human condition, where the characters are not just waiting for something external like Godot, but are essentially waiting for nothing, stuck in an endless loop. So, Endgame fits the description of a static representation. Please give your focus on this particular word, static representation, without structure or development. So, more clearly than Waiting for Godot, even though both plays share Beckett's signature absurdist style. Question number 58. Which play of Girish Karnad proved how Indian English drama could revitalize itself by employing experimental models? So the correct option is Tughlaq. The play by Girish Karnad that proved how Indian English drama could revitalize itself by employing experimental models is Tughlaq, because Tughlaq in 1964 is a historical play that uses experimental forms and techniques, blending myth and history to explore themes of political idealism, power, and disillusionment. It marked a turning point in Indian English drama by incorporating modern experimental storytelling methods. Question number 59. Who is considered the father of modern realistic drama? And the correct answer is Henrik Johann Ibsen. Why? Because Henrik Ibsen is considered the father of modern realistic drama. His works, such as Doll's House and Hedda Gabler, broke away from the melodramatic and romantic styles of the time, focusing on real social issues and psychological insight into human behavior. Ibsen's plays often dealt with themes like gender roles, individual freedom, and societal norms, making him a pioneering figure in modern drama. Question number 60. Who has the distinct honor of being the first African American woman to have a play produced on Broadway? Uh, so the correct answer is Lorien Hansberry. Because Lorien Hansberry has the distinct honor of being the first African American woman to have a play produced on Broadway. Her play, A Rise in, um, in the Sun, which was published in 1959, was groundbreaking, addressing issues of race, class, and identity in America. It became a major success and remains one of the most important works in American theater history. Question number 61. Who said poetry begins with delight and ends in wisdom? And the correct answer is Philip Sidney. So, first of all, I want to say the quote, poetry begins with delight and ends in wisdom, is attributed to Philip Sidney, not Plato. And Sidney, in his defense of poesy, which was published in 1595, argues that poetry has the power to both delight and teach, suggesting that its ultimate goal is to inspire wisdom and moral understanding. Question number 62. Shakespearean sonnet has the rhyme scheme of. So there are four options in which I have take first one as a correct answer. That is A B A B C D C D E F E F G G G. Sorry, G G. So here is the explanation. A Shakespearean sonnet, also known as the English sonnet, has the rhyme scheme A B A B C D C D E F E F G G. It consists of three quatrains, that is four line stanzas, followed by a couplet, that is two line stanza. The final couplet often provides a resolution or commentary on the preceding lines. Question number 63. Imitation of classical Greek and Roman concepts is one of the main characteristics of neoclassical poetry, which I have taken as a correct answer. Why? Because imitation of classical Greek and Roman concepts is one of the main characteristics of neoclassical poetry, because neoclassical poets active during the 17th and 18th centuries looked to the classical works of Greek and Roman literature for inspiration, emphasizing order, formality, reason, and restraint. Question number 64. The statement, a great thinker is capable of being in uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact and reason, is made by John Keats. Why? Because so here is the explanation. So this reflects Keats' idea of negative capability, the ability of a person, particularly an artist, to accept ambiguity and uncertainty without the need to immediately resolve or explain it. Question number 65. One of the following poets uses the certainties, the pointlessness and the violence he sees in the animals to clarify and intensify human experience. He is Ted Hughes. Why? Because here is the explanation. Because Hughes often explored themes of nature. If you see his work, you'll get to know that he explored themes of nature, animal behavior, and the primal aspects of life, using them to reflect on human existence and its complexities. His famous collection, The Hawk in the Rain, is a good example of this approach. Question number 66. The poem The Thought Fox is penned by Ted Hughes. It is one of his well known works where Hughes explores the process of writing poetry through the metaphor of a fox coming to life in the mind of the poet. The poem reflects Hughes's fascination with nature and the creative process. Question number 67. The title of the play, A Rising in the Sun by Laurie Ann Hansberry, is taken from the poem of Langston Hughes called The Harlem or A Dream Deferred. The title of the play, A Rising in the Sun by Lorian Hensperry, is taken from a poem by Langston Hughes titled Harlem. In this poem, Hughes famously asks, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a rising in the sun? Hensperry chose this line as the inspiration for her play, which explores the dreams and struggles of a black family in America. Question number 68, the last question of this video. Gods in his heaven, all's right with the world, is taken from one of the following poems of a Browning, that is Andrea del Sarto, Pippa Passes, Fra Lippo, My Last Duchess. And the correct answer is Pippa Passes. So this line is spoken by the character Pippa in the poem, and it reflects the theme of optimism and the belief that despite the turmoil and suffering in the world, everything will ultimately be set right by a divine presence. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಇಲ್ಲಿಯವರೆಗೆ. ಈ ವಿವರಣೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸಹಾಯಕವಾಗಿತ್ತಾ ಎಂಬುದಾದರೆ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಈ ವಿಡಿಯೋಗೆ ಲೈಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮತ್ತು ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನನ್ನ ಚಾನಲನ್ನು. ಮತ್ತು ಕೆಸೆಟ್ ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆಗೆ ತಯಾರಿ ನಡೆಸುತ್ತಿರುವ ಇತರರೊಂದಿಗೆ ಹಂಚಿಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ ಸಂಬಂಧಿತ ವಿಷಯಗಳಿಗಾಗಿ ನನ್ನ ಚಾನಲ್ಗೆ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡುವುದು ಮರೆತುಬೇಡಿ ಮತ್ತು ನಾನು ಹೊಸ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಅಪ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ತಕ್ಷಣವೇ ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಪಡೆಯಲು ಬೆಲ್ ಐಕಾನ್ ಒತ್ತಿ. ವಿಡಿಯೋ ನೋಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ಮುಂದಿನ ವಿಡಿಯೋದಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಭೇಟಿಯಾಗೋಣ. ತನ್ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಜಾಗರೂಕರಾಗಿ ಇರಿ ಮತ್ತು ಓದು ಮುಂದುವರಿಸಿ.